True. Welcome, gods who failed, to Geek Salad's Retro Record Reviews podcast. I'm Andy.
I'm Mike. I'm Joe.
I'm Todd.
I'm Jim.
And hey, so thank you for joining us for our second episode of our Retro Records, where we put a poll out last week asking what 1991 record did you want us to talk about? And after 3 rounds, we came up with the victor, Metallica's self-titled album, which is also known as the Black Album.
Oh, there it is.
Todd's got it right there, begging the question, how much more black could it be?
Yeah,
Black is black.
That's true.
So I want to point out something real quick before we get into discussing this album. That this is like the first album in the Metallica divisive album trilogy, where it's like you had your hardcores that were like, Jim and I went that were all Metallica all the time.
No room for Megadeth.
Well, Jim and I were discussing this earlier, and there was very much a delineation between the Metallica heads who also listen to like Slayer, Megadeth, and Anthrax, and all the other people who listen to like metal, like Warrant, Def Leppard,
Rat.
Rat with 2 T's and Jackal with a Y. So here's the thing, though. I decided to put a poll out on Twitter this evening, asking, because it's such a divisive album, what were our followers' thoughts on the album? Was it A, fucking sellouts, B, safe, but there's a few face melters on there, or C, the best metal album ever? 70% said B. It was safe but decent. So only 10% figured this was a sellout album, and 20% rock on.
25. No. I don't know how many million. I think it's the top selling record of the last 25 years.
It is. It's definitely not the top the last 25 years, because remember we looked at that list, like the top 50 albums of all time, and
it's said it.
Hey, listen, is in there.
It said it on the sticker when I bought the special colored version at Walmart. It said top 25 records, and if it's a sticker on Walmart, I believe
then
it must. Walmart never lies.
It must be true.
It is gospel. It is by far their top selling record.
Oh yeah, there's no question. This is their top selling record, without a doubt.
I've done my research, and I read a lot about it this week. I mean, some of it I kind of knew, but what I came away with, it was the record they promised they would never make. It was a record that they put it out, and you guys all have heard it and everything, and Joe and I were just listening to it. It's very neat. It's 5-minute radio friendly songs talking about the generally not the thrash things that they used to talk about.
Right.
I mean, there's actual real. I mean, what is it? Nothing Else Matters is a ballad.
Yeah.
By Metallica.
Yeah, it's as close to a ballad as you're gonna get from Metallica.
Unforgiven, also.
Yeah.
But to go along with Andy's point, I mean, especially among Metallica fans, this is a very divisive album.
Yeah.
The people who consider themselves hardcore Metallica fans, this is the end point for some fans. Like, anything after this is just not worth listening to.
Right.
A lot of their thrash contemporaries took a big dump on them for putting this record out. Now, mind you, these are the same guys who were opening up for puppet shows at a Rod and Gun Club in the 90s, because Nirvana and Soundgarden and Pearl Jam kicked the living crap out of them.
Yeah.
But if you look at Metallica's records, and Todd, I'm assuming you're a fan.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the first record, Joe and I would talk about it, it's a pure thrash record. It is thrash from it's a million miles an hour, and then the next two with Ride the Lightning and Master of Puppets, those are metal records. Those are like pure metal. I mean, there's some thrashers, but they slow down a little bit. And then you get to Injustice for All, and everybody I've ever read said it's a prog metal record because the songs are 7, 8, 9 minutes long. And they realized, Lars Ulrich was in all those because they were all at the Monsters of Rock tour, and they're watching Bon Jovi and Dokken get helicoptered in, and they're sitting there going, "Man, I want a piece of that."
Yeah.
So
meanwhile, they're making like carburetor eggs on an engine block somewhere. It's just...
I don't think they were. I don't think anybody needed to have a bake sale for Metallica in '84. I think they were doing okay.
Yeah,
but it's crazy. They went from having thrash metal 2.5-minute songs to expanding it. Master of Puppets is what, 8 minutes. One is a 9-minute epic.
Justice for All is like
thrash metal
10 minutes.
Yeah, thrash metal having movements in their pieces to this, which is the most radio-friendly metal you will ever hear. And that transition is really something to behold.
It is. It's interesting, too, because their first big radio hit, like their first big mainstream hit, is One, and it's like the most unradio-friendly song I think I've ever heard. I mean, and I know they cut it down. The single is only like 5 minutes long.
The single's 5 minutes. They did like a 5-minute version of it.
And I think that song getting a lot of video play really boosted the song's popularity and made it a mainstream hit.
Again, something they said they would never, ever, ever do. Was making videos, and then they come up with this art concept piece with Johnny Got Your Gun. You know the movie Johnny Got Your Gun? It's about the kid with his face and his ears and his mouth blown off, and he has no sensory input. So, do you guys remember the video?
Yeah, it was just it was a World War I veteran who just has no way of communicating.
But remember at the end of it, he's tapping his head on a pillow because he's giving Morse code, and they read it, and it's saying, "Let me die," and that's what One's about. It's about somebody who loses all their sensory perception, but they're trapped in their own body. But it's their breakout song. I don't even think
it's crazy to me that is their breakout song. But then you get to the Black Album, and it's just funny. There is the definite line of demarcation between here's what the radio will play, and we're still going to have a couple of real solid Metallica branded songs on there. Every song that did not make MTV is still, it feels like it wouldn't be completely out of place on at least Ride the Lightning, if not Justice. Just with a heavier, I think with a heavier production sheen on it.
Yeah, I mean, they had a guy named, Rasmussen Fleming, or Fleming Rasmussen did both Master, and he did Ride the Lightning. And you can tell, I mean, if you listen to them, there's a lot of similarities between the records. But of Wolf and Man, song Wolf and Man, that could be on, Ride the Lightning or Master of Puppets pretty easy.
Yeah. And when you think about this album, when you have those more thrash sounding songs or prog sounding songs, you also have songs that would have fit in easily with Load and Reload going forward, or the Garage Days, revisited, not their cover of Misfits songs, but their Whiskey in the Jar or Turn the Page that they did on
Whiskey in the Jar cover
nicely on that collection as well, and that has a lot to do with Bob Rock and his production. I was actually just watching Classic Albums, which is on Prime. Here's to watch of this album. Bob Rock really wanted to capture their live energy on a record, which they hadn't really done before. And all of my really terrible CD versions of Master of Puppets and Ride the Lightning sound boring and sound bland. I haven't gotten them on vinyl and put them on my system here, but this is the first Metallica album to me that feels alive, and I think that has a lot to do with Bob Rock and their shift in style and tone.
Well, I was reading about it, and they were talking about some of the problems they were having was, I mean, they were James Hetfield.
Oh, they're all assholes and they hate each other. Yeah.
Well, they all hate. Well, yeah. I mean, that
Lars.
goes without saying.
That's
Oh,
that's
yeah,
nothing new in rock and roll.
Oh, but they were saying that. Well, it's a funny story about Lars because Lars was never considered a drummer like Dave Lombardo from Slayer or Charlie Benante from Anthrax. I mean, the guy from Slayer is like an alien. I mean, he's so good. And I know Andy, you probably never listened to the record before, but I mean, it's worth a listen just to hear the musicianship. But they were saying that Lars's drumming was not up to par, and Bob Rock basically said to Lars, "You need to get some drum lessons, because you are just not up to par, buddy." Now, granted, you take it with a grain of salt, but it's just interesting because, I mean, Todd, you just watched it, right? You just watched the making of this record. They didn't get along. They were not getting along at all.
Jason Newsted was miserable.
Yeah.
He thought all of their albums to that point. Well, he wasn't on. He was just on Justice, right? It was
Yeah.
He recorded that.
It was Cliff Burton before that. He thought Justice was not as bass heavy as it should have been, for their sound. And this was kind of a return to what he wanted to do also on the album. So I think they all had more of a say going into this album as well, versus just Hetfield and Ulrich fighting over, if the guitars are going to be louder or the drums are going to be louder.
Right.
It was more of a cohesive thing.
The urban legend is, they said Jason Newsted never felt like he was a part of the band. And the legend is, and I don't know, God, I mean, you'd have to be galactically stupid to do this, especially on a metal record, that they purposely turned the bass down. It's like a hazing thing to do to Jason Newsted. Because he never felt like he was part of the band.
Seems counterproductive to me, but
yeah,
it sounds really stupid to me. I don't know why you would ever do something like that, but that's the rumor. But the big thing is, like Todd was saying, Bob Rock had a lot to do with it, because he's basically said your playing is good, but it's just needs to be a lot better. So I mean, they said he made them redo. I mean, Kirk Hammett came out and said, I would leave some days with just getting down a couple strokes that Bob liked. And he just keeps saying, do it again, do it again, do it again, do it again. And he just kept on making them replay parts over and over again. And they said what held him back was the drumming. Like the drumming just was not, it was substandard. That's what they say. Listen, I don't know a good drummer from a bad drummer. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, Lars Ulrich's a good drummer, but a lot of it they said a lot of the holdup and a lot of the problems was that Lars's drumming wasn't up to snuff, but they all, at the end of it, when they got out of it, they said, yeah, I never want to work with him again, even though they do 3 more records with him. But they said he made us better musicians, and that's probably what, to Todd's point too, that's probably why it shows, because in terms of their musicianship, it might be their best record. Like in terms of the solos, like Kirk Hammett is, this is in my mind easily his best work.
Yeah,
as a member of Metallica, and I'll probably get a lot of people who disagree with me on it, but in my mind, it's his best work, and he got the best out of all of them.
Well, it's funny with the hindsight of with the benefit of 30 years in hindsight, to think of the legacy of this album, in a way, is kind of like the last hurrah for metal, because when you think about it, for a while, because you think about it, this is right before Nirvana releases Nevermind.
Yep. This literally a month before.
No, we looked it up. It was a week.
Yeah, 3 weeks.
Was it a
This
week?
came out on August 12th, 1991, and Nirvana and Nevermind came out on August 27th.
But I mean, grunge didn't start taking until
92,
like
90.
No, but it was like the fall. I remember somebody giving me the tape saying, you need to listen to this for Nirvana. I think it was Mike Janzik. My friend Mike from high school, and he gave it to me. He said, you need to listen to this. And I was like, oh my God, it changed. But I mean, I don't think grunge was taking hold. Metallica was still the biggest rock band in the world at that point.
Right. But when you look back on it, when you think about it, by 1991, a lot of hair metal and just metal in general was kind of falling by the wayside.
Yeah.
It
was too formulaic.
Yeah, and black really was kind of like a scream against that whole kind of like, hey, we're still relevant kind of type of, this genre of music is still very relevant, before grunge comes along and just kind of like just wipes everybody off the map for a few years.
Well,
but Jim,
go ahead.
Jimmy brought up a really good point though about Metallica, is that they're the only band to really survive the 90s. They survived the grunge onslaught. Yeah,
well, I mean, because the thing was, they like Def Leppard and Motley Crue and Poison and all these bands hadn't been relevant or irrelevant long enough to do reunion tours.
Right.
But I mean, everybody, all of them. I mean, Iron Maiden, had a streak of sellouts that I don't know if to this day has been broken. And back in the 90s, they couldn't. I mean, rock bands couldn't sell. That's why. And this is to the greatness of Metallica. They're like the David Bowie or Madonna of rock. They stayed relevant. They changed their sound. It was still palatable for a lot of people. I'm not a big fan of Load or Reload. I think they're good, but I don't love them. But it kept them relevant, and they were still packing in Sullivan Stadium or Gillette Stadium every time.
Like, I mean, when you think about it, it's like from a music standpoint, from a metal standpoint, it's going to sound counterintuitive, but Metallica was still considered a more pure metal band than, say, Def Leppard, Motley Crue, Warren, all these other hair metal bands that kind of just fell by the wayside in the early 90s.
Yeah.
They were more into, even though it wasn't grunge, even Metallica was more pure and more kind of in line with those kind of sensibilities.
Yeah. Oh, we actually got a comment coming in here. I'm just going to pop that on the screen here from our friend Ape Cod. Grunge is gone. All other forms of metal came back with a vengeance.
All right, Steve.
Think that if I was going to confirm that a lot of the metal came back in the form of new metal, Ublat.
But Slipknot and Limp Bizkit.
Oh God. Oh yeah. Well, 94. It's like after grunge hit, you got this grouping of like the Cookie Monster rock.
Lamb of God.
Was it Cannibal Corpse? I was just trying to remember what was the band in Ace Ventura.
Cannibal.
That's terrible. Oh my God.
Cookie.
Yeah, I don't even. But you know what? The sad thing again, the musicianship is actually really good. Then they just have some guy come out and just growl into a microphone for half an hour.
Right.
Yeah. Well, to that point, that I'm a fair bit younger than the other gentlemen on this call. Sorry, gents.
Thank you for letting me know.
My introduction to Metallica. Obviously, I had heard Enter Sandman before, and I'd heard some of these songs, but I didn't get into Metallica until 3 years after Load came out. So the first Metallica song I ever loved was King Nothing, which is a sequel to Enter Sandman.
Yeah,
great song.
I went back and I collected everything else. I really liked Load. I really liked Reload.
Do you like Saint Anger?
What's that? I don't like Saint Anger. No.
Okay, I'm just gonna say because no one else does either.
I know.
Well, actually, that's not true. I had a coworker that confided in me. He's like, because I was asking, what are your thoughts on the Black Album? He's like, I got to be honest. I think that Saint Anger is their best album. Like, and you call yourself a metal guy?
No. You can't have a metal album without a guitar solo on it, right? So
new metal is just frat boys crying about their ex-girlfriends.
Not gonna argue with that one, Steve.
Yeah.
That is very true.
That's
as
right.
evidenced by Seether.
Yeah.
Saint Anger,
No, that's not new
late.
metal though. That's post grunge butt rock. It's not. That's not. No, new metal is Slipknot and Korn. Because you have to have a rap. New metal has to have a rap.
Right, or like Linkin Park. You gotta have a DJ go along with it.
With my introduction into Metallica during Load and Reload and S&M, that whole symphony thing that they did.
Yes,
that's where I picked up the new metal from, with Korn, Limp Bizkit, Godsmack. I saw Godsmack open for Metallica in 2004. I saw Slayer, I saw Static X, I saw Pantera, all of those bands. That was my introduction into metal. So going back and listening to thrash metal was a little jarring for me. So this is like a perfect midpoint between new metal and that old thrash metal that sounded tinny to me, you know. So, you know, this album has a special place in my heart, even if it's not my favorite Metallica album.
Right.
What is your favorite Metallica album then? Master?
I'm gonna say it's Load. I know.
Wow.
I know.
No, but it's a nostalgia thing though. It's a nostalgia thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You were like what, 10 when Load came out, Todd?
What's that?
You were like 10 when Load
I
came
was
out?
11 years old when Load came out. But I didn't listen to it until I was 14. So
when you just said that, a liver spot just grew in my hand.
I'm so sorry. In 1996, I was listening to Oasis and Alanis Morissette and Dave Matthews. So
was Andy. That's okay. I liked Oasis. I did. I
love Oasis. Except for that third album.
I got it over here. Shit. All good.
I'm trying to figure out though, Todd. Okay, it's your wall. It's on the lower right hand corner. It's like a money bag.
Right there, right by my face.
Yeah, what is that? What?
Teenage Fan Club.
Oh, okay.
Bandwagon. Great album.
All
right. So Todd, you said you've seen Metallica live.
Yes.
I know Jim saw Metallica. Oh, actually, did you actually see Metallica live, or were you?
I've seen him 5 times.
Okay, because I remember you and I were at the same concert, but we did not sit together. And you were dragged out right after the cult ended. Was that what happened?
No. What happened was I stood. This is before Mike Janzik and I stood in line at City Hall Music. Got in line at 2:00 in the morning to get wristbands to then purchase tickets, and we got them. We got 4. My friend Steve, their both name is Steve, and they were going because the opening act was the Cult, and they had just put out Sonic Temple, which Bob Rock I think actually produced, and they left after the Cult.
They left after okay, because I remember that was like a big thing because. I don't remember. I would have
walked home before I left.
I was at the same concert. I went with my high school friend Dave, and maybe 1 or 2 other people whom I don't remember. By the way, for those listening to Atlantis, it was required by law.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I've only seen them once. I saw them
menstrual cramps.
And Justice for All. Joe, how about you? Have you seen Metallica live?
I've never seen Metallica live, no.
I have never. They are, in terms of seeing them live, they're one of the most consistent bands. I've never seen a bad show from them. I've seen them 5 times, and they're always amazing. And they play for 3 hours.
Jesus, Steve. I was not impressed when I saw them, but that had to do with the fact that I missed Game 2 of the 2004 World Series to go see them. Godsmack opened. Godsmack was better.
What?
I know. It's blasphemy.
Oh, that's the Saint Anger tour, though.
Yeah, that was Saint Anger.
And see, when I saw them, I didn't see them. What they did was they did a stadium tour. It was Metallica Fest. So you got Metallica, and then they said, "Hey, who's a hot band? Hey, who's the band with the lead singer who looks like he's your paper boy? Oh, Limp Bizkit. We'll throw their asses on." And it was Linkin Park, and then I don't know, Johnny and the Shitbags or something. All I know is they did a greatest hits tour for the summer. Like it was at Gillette Stadium. They did everything you'd want to hear, and then they came back, which is when you probably went, Todd, and they supported Saint Anger.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I saw them, they did one Saint Anger song.
Yeah, mine was at the Garden. I had to drive from Westfield to Lynn with my college roommate Joe Bagg. He's not going to watch this, but shout out to Joe Bagg. And we got Wendy's in Lynn, and then went to the Garden. Got back at like 3:30 in the morning. It was terrible. It was not a great night. But
yeah,
my favorite. They checked off their list.
Metallica story, though, in regards to the Black Album, and I was talking to Jim about this yesterday, is the Montreal incident, where James Hetfield caught fire on stage, had to be rushed to a hospital, and they went to Axl Rose because it was a double bill. This was like the mega concert of all mega concerts, Metallica and Guns N' Roses. and they went to Axel, like, Axel, you could be a hero. Not feeling it. So they burned the city of Montreal to the ground.
Well, what happened was he came out 2 hours late, like he always does, because he's a shitbird. And apparently, like 5 songs into the set, someone threw a lighter and hit him in the ding dong. And he turned around and walked off, and then walked back on, said, "You're all getting your money back. Good night." Walked off, and then the city of Montreal burned to the ground that evening.
Yeah. You know how far you have to go to piss off Canadians? To that extent?
But, I mean, if you really think about it, you're like, holy crap. The future of this concert is hinging on one man, Axl Rose. Let's go, we need Axl Rose to be logical.
The picture of reliability.
Yeah, the picture of reliability.
Good luck with that.
The best comparison to that I heard was, how unreliable do you have to be that when the remaining members of Guns N' Roses formed Velvet Revolver, they found Scott Weiland to be more reliable than Axl Rose?
Great album. Got it over here.
It is a great album. The first one is awesome.
Yeah.
That's a really good record, actually. I like
it.
I don't have it on vinyl, but I like it.
Let's talk real quick, because we're butting up on the half-hour mark here. What are some of our favorite tunes on the Black Album?
For me, is Enter Sandman.
Solid.
Lame.
It is a solid radio. Honestly,
It's the one. It's really the song that kind of, like I was telling Jim earlier, I was never really a big Metallica fan through high school, but this is the song that kind of like made me say, you know what, they're a solid band. They're kind of,
yeah.
I think if you go on Spotify, I'm fairly confident it's their most downloaded song.
Probably.
And it might be by a wide margin.
Right. But Joe, that's kind of their mission accomplished, though. If you weren't a fan before, and then all of a sudden you're, just yeah.
Yeah, basically, it's like it's a very
Andy,
beginner-friendly song.
That was a great impersonation of a metalhead. Thank you.
Hey, I've shown a lot of restraint that I haven't done my James Hetfield thing the entire time.
Thank you. No, I know it's the same thing. Like when
in the Jarro.
I read their biography, and every time I'd read quotes from James Hetfield, I'd be like, and then Lars, I can't help but talk like James Hetfield.
You have to.
You have to do it.
I mean, Andy, hold on, Andy. I mean, you remember in high school, the people who would wear Metallica patches on their jean jackets are not exactly people you'd want to be hanging out with to begin with, right?
Right, exactly. And you know what? Steve actually brings up a good point here. Steve's a couple years younger than me and Joe and Jim, but still older than Todd. Enter Sandman is actually pretty great. The 16-year-old in me needs to just make peace with that.
Oh, it's a great song. It's one of the.
It is.
Oh, yeah.
But I think for those dudes, those dudes with the Metallica patches and the Kill 'Em All shirt, it was like that was their shirt. They would never progress beyond Kill 'Em All.
You know what it is.
Reconcile. This is not the worst thing Metallica put out. It is not a betrayal of everything you believed leading up to that point.
Right. Well, that's the thing. Enter Sandman is the embodiment of everything they hate about the Black Album.
Yeah.
It's a radio-friendly, good song for a beginner to get into.
With a solid music video.
Yeah. Well, it's a great. Do you know what the song was originally about? And they said, hey, if you want a radio-friendly song, you're going to have to change the lyrics up a little bit. It was not about the boogeyman that puts you to sleep. It was going to actually be about crib death. And Bob Rock or somebody said, listen, if you want this playing on Top 40 radio, you really can't talk about dead babies. So why don't we rejigger them lyrics a little bit there, James?
Just give them another pass. Another once over.
Yeah, could we not have SIDS? Could we just not have that? So that's what it was originally going to be about. And and everybody said to him, they like we're looking to get away from talking about what is it? Todd brought up the Garage Days revisited with the Misfits covers and talking about I got something to say, I killed your baby today and stuff like that. They were trying to get away from that, but the problem is a lot of people believe that they invented the genre of thrash metal, and the thing is, and like we talked about before, only one record is really thrash, and a lot of their big fans, they lost a lot of fans after Master of Puppets. Honestly, a lot of people walked on them, but it was just I think this record was just hard for a lot of like real Metallica metal fans to swallow, because it's not really a metal record. It's a
hard rock record.
It's a very hard rock record. It's like on.
And then it just got worse for those people in the 90s.
Yeah.
Oh, so they won't even, well, they cut their hair.
Yeah.
They cut their
They start wearing
hair.
suits.
Kurt, I mean, what is it? Kirk Hammett got nose piercings and stuff. I mean, everybody was like, what the hell has happened to them? Because, you know, the thing was that they were becoming the band that they hated. They were becoming Bon Jovi, and they were becoming Dokken and all these other bands. There's this big story about how, you remember the Monsters of Rock tour? Todd, you don't. You probably.
Oh, I remember it.
They did this big. It was this big. This was the lineup. It was Van Hagar headlining, which is to make me want to gag in a bag. Behind them was Whitesnake. Then it was Dokken. Then it was Metallica. So Metallica's on in the middle of the afternoon, and they're playing. And halfway through the song, Bon Jovi, that douche nozzle, and his band flew their helicopter over the stage and distracted the whole thing and landed, and just pissed. Well, James Hetfield was pissed, but I think the belief was Lars Ulrich's like, I want me some of that.
That's the one right there.
I enjoy making money and like to continue to find ways of making more of it.
Yeah, well, and Joe and I were joking about it tonight. Like a lot of the metal peers are like, this isn't the way you trade music. You make demo cassette tapes, and you trade them, and you go to import shops and stuff like that, and you wait 6 months to get all these imports from Sweden and stuff like that. And they said it was very much a subculture, and Metallica left it with that album. And again, I think it's okay. I think it saved them.
Yeah.
I don't know if they would have. They might have fallen in the. Some bands haven't even, like Judas Priest has never recovered from that period when metal died. Metallica was still relevant.
Yeah.
At that point, and that in the Black Album is what did it for them. I really believe that it spawned 5 singles or something like that off of
something like that. Yeah.
And it really is. I mean, yes, maybe it's not a thrash record, but it's a very, very, very good record. And I Napster bad. Oh God.
Oh, Lars. This is Lars Ulrich. He cannot afford the solid gold jet plane.
Nope.
Well, it's funny when that whole thing happened. There was I guess Lars did an interview in Playboy, and he said something like, "Well, if the fans, the Napster, don't want to pay for our music, then F them." And they cut I guess they had an interview with James Hetfield after, and he was just sitting there going, "Oh no, dude, you can't be saying stuff like that. Oh dear, we're not looking good here. You really got to stop it." They did not come out smelling like, they came out looking horrible. But I guess the question: can you blame them?
No, I can't. Especially then when it wasn't regulated. I guess is the only term I can really think of for it. It was literally. Somebody took their CD, ripped all the data off of it, threw it up on the World Wide Web. So in between porn searches, oh look, it's nothing else matters. So
when I decided to,
I'll put that back up there. Sorry,
I accidentally taught myself nothing else matters. He was really shooting for skyrockets at night, but unfortunately, he got that.
Never care for what they do.
Oh, but it's a great song though.
No, it is a great song. It's just that when I went back and I listened to this album twice in like the last week, and I really found myself just gravitating more to the non-singles. As much as like Enter Sandman's got some great licks on it.
Great
I love Unforgiven. I really love Unforgiven. But just like, you mentioned Wolf and Man, that God It Failed.
Don't Tread on Me.
One of the other songs on there I really dug.
Don't Tread on Me.
My Friend of Misery. Oh, those are great songs. And those, again, could have been welcome on any of their earlier albums.
Yeah. You know, there's a funny story because you mentioned The God That Fails, and they talk about. They actually asked James Hetfield what the song was about, and apparently both of his parents were anti-vaxxers, and they both got sick, and they wouldn't seek treatment. So
Yeah.
his mother died at a very early age. I think it was cancer, and then his father passed away later on of the same stuff. But neither one of them would ever get any. They were devoutly religious people. And
like Christian Scientists or something like that.
Yeah.
Something like that, and they would not take meds. They wouldn't, and
Wow.
it bothered him. He's like, what, you know, he couldn't understand it. But I think in terms of like it's actually a very deep album. I mean, one song, what is it? Nothing Else Matters is again a power ballad to his James Hetfield's girlfriend that he missed. I mean, can you imagine that being on Kill 'Em All? I mean, it's
right.
Yeah. It's growth as an artist, and you know that's commendable, whether their diehard fans liked it or not. You know, like those other metal bands, Joe Bag, again, my college roommate loved Megadeth, loved it. I couldn't get into Megadeth because it all sounded the same to me. There was no variety, and this album, like it or not, is different than what came before it and what came after.
Right.
Well, and that's a great point because if you talk about Led Zeppelin. Does Led Zeppelin 1 sound anything like Physical Graffiti?
No, hell no.
No.
Not even
No,
close.
not at all.
And all the great
Feel the Rain does
change
not
your sound.
belong in any of the first four, but it fits where it fits, right? So
they're good enough that the production value and the arrangements are always so good that you will, if you're a fan of the band, you'll still like it.
Yep.
Yeah. I also feel too like the perceptions that we get, especially for me, Joe, and Jim, were that because we were growing up in this time also.
Is this another we're old commentary?
No, actually it's just more of like we were just at that age when it's like your bands played what you like, they played to you, and any change whatsoever, any deviation to that was a betrayal. I'd be very interested in hearing people that were in their 30s who were like like earlier Metallica who listen to this and go, all right, well, that makes sense. I understand. Everyone's got to eat. It's just the next logical thing.
You mean it's like for this album, it's the next evolution in their stage because I Todd actually just nailed it. I like Megadeth. I like Slayer, but it's the same record. Every record's the same record. It really is. It's, Megadeth came out and Dave Mustaine said it was his revenge against Metallica. He said, we're going to be faster and we're going to be more technical and we're going to be heavier than they ever were. And he was right, but he's basically put out the same record since, 83 when that first record, Killing Is My Business, came out. The first four records are phenomenal.
Yeah.
They're phenomenal records, but it's true. And Slayer has been playing the same thing since day one, and Metallica evolved.
At least Anthrax had that Public Enemy collab, right?
Yes, no, you're right about that because they're the ones who started nu metal. They're the ones who did, because they were all from New York. Anthrax, most of the metal bands are all out in L.A. or like Metallica is actually San Francisco, but most of those bands are out there. Anthrax is New York City.
So you're saying it's their fault? We should blame Anthrax?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you like the song? Megadeth was my getaway drug.
Gateway.
Oh, my gateway drug. Oh, sorry. I don't even know. Jesus. I mean, no.
A long week.
Okay. Yeah. No, but a lot of those. But yeah, So the song. Remember, I'm the Man.
Yep.
There it is. That's your first rap metal song. So you can, if you're a big Korn fan, you can go to that record and you can point to it. I actually liked Anthrax. I thought they were really good.
I really liked Anthrax too, especially like that album they did with Public Enemy. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, Attack of the Killer Bees.
Yeah, it's a fantastic album.
It is.
Actually, I think I bought that one.
Really?
But then again, I bought a lot of records. I bought a lot of tapes in 1991. God damn you, coconuts!
Coconuts.
Coconuts, records and CDs and tapes.
Oh God! And if you want to see a C-level hair metal band, get your ass in line at 6 a.m. because Danger's
coming to
going to
frame
be
Danger. Oh God! Here we go.
Child USA is going to be there along with Rhino Bucket. That's what you want to
Oh
do.
man. So
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, all in all, I really had a good time going back and listening to this one. It doesn't sound 30 years old.
No, it holds up very well.
Yeah.
No, it's a timeless record. I mean, most people, who collect, I'm calling it the Vikstrom sickness because he started talking about it, and then I said, I'm like, all right, I'm doing it, and then Joe's doing it, and Andy's doing it.
No, then Andy, and then me. I'm the last one.
Yes, we'll call it the Vikstrom sickness. You got to have it in your collection. It should be a cornerstone of your collection. I think,
I agree with you. It was not the first Metallica album in my collection. It was
right.
Late. So.
Well, yeah, but that's your age, though. I mean, that's
true.
It makes sense. You weren't born when Ride the Lightning came out, were you?
No. 86? I was born. I was 86.
Yeah.
85?
No. Ride the Lightning came out in.
I was not born
83.
when Kill 'Em All came out.
Okay.
So.
Bring the Noise is what Rage Against the Machine would sound like if they were good. How do you not like Rage Against the Machine?
Oh boy.
Here we go. We got to debate this album. Is this on our spreadsheet for subsequent albums?
It should be.
Which one, though?
All three. I know there are more than three, but the three proper albums.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, put them on. Let's do this.
Somebody put them on.
Honestly,
they came around when I was in college, and some of my friends wouldn't shut the fuck up about them. So I was really just like, maybe I'll come back to it later. So I still have it. So maybe I should do that.
No, that wasn't their response for you playing all your church records, was it?
Well, yeah, but
they weren't trying to drown that out, right?
Okay. All right. Steve put this up. I'm sorry. I didn't actually mean that. Okay.
Okay.
Contrition. So, yeah, no, I really like this album. I'm honestly, because Jim like threw in our record collectors chat about that Walmart is now carrying like all of the Metallica albums on vinyl, and I'm like weighing this like scientific properties. Which one do I get? Do I get Justice? Because personally, I think Justice for All might be my favorite. If not that, then Ride the Lightning. But I don't know. Maybe get them both. I don't know.
Well, I'm not going to lie to you, because again, I'm down with the sickness. I went over to Walmart, and they had all 5 albums on colored vinyl. Guess who scooped their asses right up? Right up. And I have the other ones, which I'm going to be going to Joe's Records and selling them.
Okay.
So yeah, and I listened to every one of them, and God, it was glorious. It really was. And you know what? I have actually become more partial to Injustice for All than I've always liked it, but I've actually been listening to it a lot, because if you go on Spotify, Metallica has the box sets for the first 4 records. And it's it's the remastered record, then it's a bunch of live stuff, then it's studio outtakes and stuff like that. And those are actually really interesting to listen to. Mm-hmm. They don't have one for the 5th one yet, for Black Album.
Huh. But
interesting.
We never said. For me, Justice was my real intro into Metallica.
Yeah, I think
it got a lot of play in high school. That's what I remember.
Oh yeah. It
was. I think next to Hysteria, I think Injustice for All was the most played record in high school.
I think Kid and Play might have something to say about that.
No, that was after I was out of high school.
That was after we graduated.
House Party is sadly a 1991 or 2 movie. I think you and I were already done.
Oh God, I feel like David Crosby. I just can't remember anything that happened from like 85 to 95. Good God.
That's what I'm here for. So
thank God.
Anyway. So Ride the Light. All right. One more from Steve before we wrap up tonight. Ride the Lightning is the best album of the thrash era. Nobody wrote one on their hand before committing suicide.
Oh God.
Ape Cod should have his own collection of Hallmark cards to make you feel better about yourself.
Yeah, I just remember why can't I remember the name of the song from Ride the Lightning, the one about suicide?
Fade to Black.
Fade to Black, right. It was the only song that our friend Emmett ever learned on the guitar, and he played it all the time.
I think I was spared from that.
That's surprising because it was your guitar he was playing.
He learned how to play Fade to Black?
He learned how to play Fade to Black. You didn't.
No. I could play Yellow Submarine. And not well.
So,
hey, we lost.
That's a record for another day.
Yeah, exactly.
We all didn't get to say. I mean, Joe said Enter Sandman was his favorite. So, Andy, what's your favorite song off that album?
I'd honestly have to say The God That Failed. Other than A Wolf and Man, but I know you brought that one up. That one is, it's everything perfect about what they're capable of doing, including a very good production sheen that they put on there. It's very well produced.
It's about James Hetfield hunting.
Okay.
He's a big hunter. Because I remember I was reading the lyrics. It's like, oh wow, they're turning into werewolves. It's not. He just likes to hunt.
You know what? I love how these like hardcore heavy metal dudes have sometimes the most mundane like hobbies. Oh yeah, he likes to go hunting. He likes to be up in a tree stand at 6 a.m. in the morning with a bow and arrow, freezing his ass off.
Well, I make millions, but I'm going to stalk hunt and kill all my dinner.
Me and Ted Nugent are going out there.
No, the news. Yeah, no, I don't think that'll happen.
Nope.
Well, you're right. My favorite is A Wolf and Man on that song. Although Enter Sandman is a close second. I love the build up for it.
Yeah.
What about you,
Todd? How
Todd?
about you?
I like the ballads. I like Nothing Else Matters more than Unforgiven, but I would probably say Nothing Else Matters or Wherever I May Roam are my two favorites on this one.
Wherever I May Roam is actually a pretty good song. That's probably my second favorite song on the album.
Yeah. I think out of their, like, the singles, because Wherever I May Roam, I think was like their fifth and final.
But it was, it was their last single, but it wasn't as successful as the other ones were, as the first four.
No,
it felt like it's one of those ones you have to remind yourself that this got like constant radio airplay and a video on MTV, even though I think it was concert footage.
Mm-hmm.
But
well, this is back in the day when you put out and they didn't put out an album for 5 years after this, and they completely changed everything they did. But the first single, July 29th, 1991, Enter Sandman, Sad But True, fifth single, February 8th, 1993. So almost 2 years.
True. Okay.
Right?
It wasn't Wherever I May Roam.
This is the Thriller effect, where you're putting singles out on this album for 2 years, really.
Well, I wonder.
Interesting you mentioned that, Todd, because Joe has talked about this before on the podcast about Def Leppard's Hysteria.
Yeah,
they were putting out singles for 3 solid years off.
Solid into 1990.
Right, you'd be hard pressed to remember the songs that didn't end up as radio hits.
And you got to remember too, the song they released a couple of those songs on that record in England as singles that they didn't release here. I think Gods of War was actually released in England as a single.
Yeah,
it wasn't here, but I mean, I'm trying to think of what song wasn't.
Love and Affection, God of War, Gods of War. And
let's keep going.
Yeah, it just keeps going. However, we should put a pin on that because that one is going to be part of a little recurring thing we're going to be doing on Retro Records, where we have a little album smackdown, where we discuss what is the better album, which leads me into next week's show. Next week, we are going to smack down 2 records of 1991. In keeping with our upcoming podcast theme of the music of 1991. Are you getting them? Are you getting them, Todd? You've got the wait a second finger up there. Oh, they're right there.
Can I ask
Okay.
a question? Will Delight have anything to do with this SmackDown?
Delight.
Delight? Nah.
Doubtful.
Technically, their album was released in 1990, so we missed that boat.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Yeah. So, yes, next week we're going to be discussing the musical merits and the better of and the influences of Nirvana's Nevermind and Pearl Jam's 10.
Oof. I know which one Jim's going to pick.
Yeah, we know which one he's going to pick, but there's I think a lot more that goes into that besides just
If you're going to
musicality.
ask me what the more important record is, I will have a different answer.
Yeah,
What?
Exactly. It will be a ever lively discussion. So if you care to join us, we will announce that on our Twitter feed at Geek Salad Radio at some point next week. So please, we hope you liked what you saw here. Guys, any final thoughts on the Black Album? Besides, yeah.
I will never forgive Kid Rock for American Badass and taking Sad But True and just completely making it unrecognizable.
He
So,
really should have been
I will
drawn and
never
quartered
forgive
for
Kid
that.
Rock, and that could have been it, and we would have totally
yeah,
understood.
exactly.
Can I ask you a question? Do you think Sheryl Crow scrubbed herself down with a loofah after she and her she had a thing going with Kid Rock, didn't she?
Yeah, and Pamela Anderson. It's like Pamela Anderson literally has got like the downward slide of FB boyfriends. So it's like,
Well, you start at Tommy Lee. It's
exactly. There's nowhere else to go but down.
in a lot of ways, yes.
Yeah. So anyway, we hope you like what you saw here. If you are a fan of talking about records, please subscribe to the channel. We do this every week now. This is going to be a regular occurrence on Geek Salad. Also, check out our podcast, Geek Salad, which you can get anywhere you stream your podcast from, including here at YouTube. Give the video a thumbs up. Give us comments. Keep them polite, please. And definitely follow us again on Twitter at Geek Salad Radio and on Facebook at Geek Salad Podcast. Gentlemen, anything else before we...
No, I think we covered it all.
All right. Well,
I can't guarantee that I'm going to have everything on vinyl that we talk about. Just so you know, I know I've had last week and I have this week and I have next week. Doesn't mean I have everything. Don't want to
well,
disappoint.
that's fine. As
I
we determined
I
from
think
our
you should
discussion
incur
about
a
records
penalty.
that turn 50
There's a
years
penalty
old,
for this.
I already have the most inconsequential shit on vinyl. So,
Very good.
which is bizarrely, I have that. What? Why? So until next time, I'm Andy.
I'm Joe.
And Todd.
I didn't hear you, Jim.
I'm Jim.
Go forth, be nerdful, and rock on!
Oh, you just ruined it. Good